Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Katie Chu, and I'll be your host today. We are so glad to have you with us. We are about to begin our introduction class with Timothy Lowenhaupt, open to all tracks. Please take a moment now to check your Zoom settings and select your preferred translation channel. Thank you again for being here. Let's take a moment to settle in and begin.
I'm sorry, Katie. I didn't understand that you were ready. That was it. I'm sorry. All right. Hi, everybody. How are you? It's wonderful to see all of you. If you would like, please turn on your camera so I can see your beautiful faces. So I wanted to welcome all of you. Some of you have already signed up for our event here. We're starting live in about an hour and a half here in Mexico City. And, we're extremely excited about what's happening, with the five houses and ACI as we are, as we're beginning to expand our teachings and to expand into new types of teachings. And so what we're doing in these upcoming this current event and over the next couple of next year or so. It's okay, Ollie, you don't have to turn on your camera. What we're going to be doing is embarking on, I would say, a new type of presentation of the Diamond Way. And many of you may know what this means and may not know what it means. And so today we're going to give a little bit of an introduction, especially for those of you who might be new, who may have missed the program back in April, and that's totally fine that you did, if you did, and just to get a flavor of, what are these practices really about? Is my sound bad, or is it just my sound's okay? All right, so it must just be the one interpreter. Okay, cool. All right. So I think that the main idea here, like, what are we truly looking to do, right? Like what is this mystical thing that everyone's talking about? Ooh, Diamond Way, right? Oh, I want to prepare for that. you know, Translators, make sure you get the really like the feel of that. Interpreters, excuse me. So so really what we'd like to do is give you a bit of a background of where we have been, and to give you a bit of a catch up so that when we start in an hour and a half with Geshe Michael, like you'll be maybe a little bit more armed and more ready for his upcoming talks, because we talked today. We went to a cafe actually right down there, about his plan, his teaching plan over the next year or so, and what he really truly intends to do by offering the Diamond Way for the first time in 15 years. And I think it's really important for us to understand that what are we really trying to do, and then what are we really preparing ourselves for. And we're just going to jump right in, and then we'll see how far we get in the next hour or so. Tracy, love the glasses, by the way. I got my pink ones too, just in case, you know. Yeah. All right. So many of you have heard about this. Many of you have, you've been preparing for years, or maybe you just showed up for the very first time today. Like you heard these words, like you heard the words Diamond Way. Like what is this? What is this thing? Like, what is this place? Hi, Tahia. It's wonderful to see you. Where is this? Where are we going? Like, and why? So I know from my story, 15 years ago, I was a friend of mine, a really, really close friend, and who became my teacher, one of my teachers. He came up to me and he said, Tim, there's these teachings in Phoenix. And I didn't live in Phoenix, Arizona at the time. And he said the words Lam Rim. He said Lam Rim. And something weird happened inside me. It was like, I don't know what those words mean. I'm not really sure what the heck this is, but I have this kind of something open, something moved in my heart that said, yes, this is something you should really go and explore. And I had no idea what I was doing, right? Probably seeds, yes. We actually call it a bakchak sepa in Tibetan, right? Somehow these powerful seeds just went off, and at that time in my life, I was struggling for money, and I didn't really was trying to make a lot of things work, and nothing was working. But somehow this trip worked out. Like it was the easiest plane ride. It was actually incredibly inexpensive. And I made my way out. And I heard this, I went to these first teachings about Lam Rim, Lam Rim, Lam Rim. And when I got there, I thought I was going to one class. Oops. Right. And it turned out to be 14 years of teachings. But I went into this and I just was like, this is where I'm going, right? This thing, Lam Rim, which is what we call steps on the path. Like we call it, and then for those of you who have been part of what we've been doing, it's part of the staircase house, like step by step. How do you get from where you are today to what we're calling now a magical life? And how do you get there? Like, what are the things that you need to do? What steps do you have to take so that you can transform you and your life into something magical? And for me, I was hooked. I was like, I want to do this. Tell me the steps, tell me exactly what to do, and I'll just go ahead and I'll do them. I'll see if your steps are right. Like a little like indignant. Well, I'll just try it, and if it's wrong, then I'll just won't show back up again. Right. But what ended up happening is that, over many, many years of study, over and many, many retreats, many teachings, I began to understand what it meant to say steps on the path. I began to understand what it meant to begin to transform my normal life into something extraordinary. I'm not there yet, but it's certainly a hell of a lot more extraordinary than it was 15 years ago. So, in about 7 or 8 years ago was when the steps on the path became a lot more profound for me, because someone offered to me and said, hey, I think you're going to like this thing. It's called a Diamond Way. And again, it was like another one of those bakchak sepas. Like, you should do this, Tim. Right? Do the Diamond Way. And I'm like, I don't even know what the heck that means. I don't know what it means. Hi, Alicia. It's good to see you too. I don't know what any of that means. So, but again, it was like this seed that opened up that said, this is where I'm going. These are the steps that I'm going to take. Because each of those each of those teachings, each of those steps opened up a new door for me, opened up a new way of thinking, a new way of being in life, a new possibility. And it doesn't mean that it's, everything is bubbles and rainbows and awesome, right? It's not like that, right? You go through ups and downs, and as you're navigating the path, and sometimes difficulties appear, and you have to figure out how to be with all of that, which is also one of the steps on the path too. And we'll talk about that. But the idea is that we have a path, and we have a path to create a transformative experience and a complete transformation of who we are and what our world is, what are the world that appears to us, and I think a lot of people, like, I feel like a lot of people who are here, I don't know a lot of you, some of you I know, like, I have this feeling that you have a similar kind of wish, like a wish to make a better world, a wish to, in the face of terrible hardship, in the face of war, in the face of poverty, in the face of sickness, right? The pain that comes with having a body, the pain that comes with, I thought it was going to last forever. And, you wake up one morning and things aren't the way they were before. Right. But I feel like there's something deep in a lot of us that wants to do something different, that wants to say, look, the normal world is just not working. Like, if it's just come out, be a baby, have someone teach you how to dress yourself, and then you go to school and then grow up, and, and eventually you might have a family or something like that. And then you get old and die. Like, what's the point? It just seems like, that's okay. Right. But I feel like there's lots of us who are thinking, well, there's a lot of things that we can do, and there's a lot greater impact that we can seed into that cycle, wherever you are in your life journey, right? Whether you're, I just met someone last night who's been doing ACI courses since she's 7, and she's 14 now. I'm like, what the heck? Like, that's super young, right? And incredibly wise teenager now, right? Or if you jumped on the path when you're, you've hit retirement age, right? It doesn't matter how old or young you are when you start. I think there's this shared vision of how do we make a better world? Like, how can we literally, not figuratively, like, how can we literally change our world so it's not so difficult, so it doesn't bring, it's not just a source of pain, but it can be a source of love and compassion and care. And that when you begin to see these transformations, and they are possible, they inspire you to do more. And then the problems, unfortunately, seem to get bigger. Right. And then you just have to keep working. Like, you just keep working on it, like working on that transformation. And so that's what we're doing here at ACI. This is what we're doing here at the 5 houses. We believe that we can change the world, that it's not this fixed, depressing ball of rock moving through the solar system, right? And that our lives have no meaning, or there's just a little meaning for 2 seconds, and then, a blink in geological time, and that's the end of it, right? But I really think that we have this capacity to, just with a shift of a few mindset shifts, I really think it's not that difficult. If we can bring a few mindset shifts to our daily life, and then watch how those seeds expand, like within our own mind, within our own hearts and our families and our relationships and the little world that we all live in, and then see how that expands out to others. Because it doesn't take, for me at least, it doesn't take too much to really imagine a world that if everyone thought like this, like if everyone believed in the power of kindness, and they believed in the power of taking care of others, if they believed in the power of when you have a particular problem, you go and help somebody else first, right? Simple. It's just simple. Like if you just imagine a world where that was what was happening, right? If we all just started there, we all come out as little babies, you know, naked to the world. And the first thing our parents taught us, besides mommy, daddy, right? They taught us to get what you want, honey. you know, Once you're a little bit older, that you learn that you have to give it to other people first, right? You have to help other people who have similar challenges that you have. And I really think that if we had a world like that, like, okay, we have almost 500 people right now. I shouldn't have looked, it made me nervous. we have 500 people like listening right now. Like, what if 500 people thought that? What if all of us just said and committed ourselves and said, yes, I'm going to live that way. Right. And then if you just took a moment, why don't we take a moment? Let's not just talk about taking a moment. Let's take an actual moment. All right. Let's close our eyes. Get yourself comfortable. Because I know staring at a Zoom screen is very comfortable. Right. Yeah. And close your eyes. And now take that moment to think about that. If you fully embodied these ideas, not just as philosophy, not as just once a week when you're doing the 4 steps, or once a day when you have a little problem, but you truly embodied that. And that every single challenge you faced, you didn't just rush to find a solution by manipulating the outside world. You thought about who else has this same problem. And then you found a way to help them just a little bit. Like you went and found someone else who's sick too. Or you found someone else who's struggling in their marriage. Or that you just happen to be in the path of a war, going out and helping someone else who's also a victim of that too. And that's enough for 500 people. But what would happen if then each of you taught 5 more people to be that way, to think that way, to act that way, to speak that way? And then those other people, they each taught 5 people that. And watch that ripple go out. It goes to 10,000 people, then it goes to 50, then 250,000, and then a million, right? Then 5 million. And it just grows. That you start seeing a world where competition is not the way to get things. How fast before we reach a billion people, right? It's a journey to get there. It takes patience, it takes kindness, it takes a willingness to try something new, to be flexible, to step out of your comfort zone. And to inspire other people to step into something new. It's a lot of work. Not impossible, but it's big. How fast could the world become something entirely different than it is today? All right, you can open your eyes. And I think the big question for a lot of us is that is a big, it it doesn't feel that big, but it can be really big, right? To go from 500 people to 2,500 to 10,000 to 50,000 to 250,000 to a million, right? Just do times 5 exponentially, like 10, 15 times. And all of a sudden, we've covered a tremendous number of people, right? But, sometimes change doesn't happen fast enough, not the fast way that we would like them, right? And that's the big question. Like, how do we do it faster? Is there a way, dear teachers, right? Is there a way for it to go faster? Can we get there and not have to repeat the cycle over and over again? Right. And I think that's the question that drives a lot of people in the 5 houses. It's like, yeah, I've learned a lot from you. I've learned a lot in the courses. I've studied seeds. I've studied emptiness. I get the 3 principal paths. I get renunciation, right? Yeah. That's why I'm here. Duh. I understand renunciation, right? I get that bodhicitta is the thing, right? I understand that I need to serve others, and I understand that all of that produces more and more wisdom, right? But how do I get it to activate faster? And I think that's the motivation, right? That's the motivation that a lot of us have. Like, the older you get, the more motivation to make change inspires you. You don't know when like, you don't know if tomorrow's really a tomorrow, right? And I think the older you get, the more you feel that there may not be a tomorrow, right? And I think that's, if there isn't a tomorrow, would you feel like you've done enough? I ask myself that question a lot. Like, if I were to wake up tomorrow, or I would not wake up tomorrow, in that space, in that transition space, and I had a moment to think about it, would I say, did I do enough? Right? Could I have done more? Right? And we're actually going to have a class on Monday during our program here in Mexico called Bodhisattva Burnout. And it's exactly this question. Those of us who, many of you suffer from this, and I suffer from it, is that we want to move things along faster, and it becomes a kind of maybe obsession. Like, I gotta plant more seeds, and then you gotta do it, right? And then you get all like, has anyone ever felt that before? Like, not planting enough seeds, right? And then you push too much, and then it gets too difficult, right? And then you get tired, and then you get exhausted, and then you wear out, right? A bodhisattva should not wear out. Like, that's not the point of being a bodhisattva. It should be the other way around. You should be getting more energy. You should be getting more capacity. Your arms should be growing. You should be imagining, hundreds of arms, right? I have 2 arms. It looks like I have 2 arms, right? But actually, I have 500 plus arms, right? And I just know this in ACI because we have 10 to 12 paid people, and we have 500 plus volunteers. Those are, they're not my arms, right? Because if I thought they were my arms, they wouldn't be my arms. But I kind of imagine that, 24 hours a day, people are doing something for ACI. People are not, and it's for other people, right? So, like, while I'm still stuck in this body with 2 arms, I can always be imagining there's 500. Well, actually 1,000, because there's 500 people times 2. So it's 1,000 arms, right? So cool. I just made it 1,000 arms, right? And now there's another 500 people here, right? So, it doesn't take that long to imagine 5,000 or 10,000 arms. But then again, we still get stuck. Like, how do we go faster? Do we plant more seeds? Do we get obsessed about it? Do we hurt ourselves? Do we not sleep? Do we take on another 20,000 projects from the 5 houses? Yes, our job is to provide you with opportunities to plant seeds, right? But you are allowed to say no when you have to sleep. But how do you do it faster? And that's the whole question. And a lot of people come to me is like, Tim, I'm doing the work, I'm planting seeds, I'm purifying, but it's not fast enough. And that's what Diamond Way motivation is about. Once you've come to a deep understanding of renunciation, like, that this cycle just sucks, right? You die, you're reborn, do it again, right? Birth, in between, and the end, right? It hasn't worked. There has to be something else. Right? And then once you understand that you need others Okay, it's half selfish. You need others to plant seeds, right? Sorry. Like you need them, right? And there's a whole thing about it. But you need others. And in fact, I would flip it around and say they need you, right? They need you. They need you to get a good night's sleep. They need you to eat healthy, right? They need you to, so you can plant the best seeds possible. And then once you understand emptiness, not perfectly, but very, very well, and that you start using all of those teachings and applying them, not just thinking about them, but applying them, a certain point comes, right? Which is let's do it faster, right? Let's get this done now. I'm done. I'm done with gotta be nice in my words. I'm done with the dog and pony show. I'm done with this slow path and I want more. So if that's you, right? If you're like, look, I want more, you're in the right place. I want to do it faster, right? And doing it faster doesn't mean that you lose awareness. You actually create more awareness. You actually become more careful. You become more aware of the seeds you're planting and how you're doing it. Teaching number one I ever got, DCI level 1, 2010, Detroit, Michigan, Arizona. I think some of you may have been there. Geshe taught the 4 steps. I think he was calling it the Starbucks 4 steps at that point. Right. And then I think he realized he might get sued because it got too popular. So now he calls it the 4 steps. Right. But he said something very interesting in that talk. He was like, you can do anything if you do the 4 steps. That's what he led with. And then the end of the program, I won't forget this moment. He was like, you can get anything you want, even total enlightenment, if you do the 4 steps. Dramatic pause with technique. And then it was like a mic drop moment. And he was like, peace. And he walked off the stage. I mean, this is Tim's interpretation of the moment. Okay. He just was like, do the 4 steps with technique. And then he took off. And I'm like, well, what's the technique? Right. And I wanted more. And I was like, okay, thanks, teacher, for hooking me in. Now I want more. And so as you study the foundation courses or the foundation classes, like what we're doing right now, the Song of My Spiritual Life, which is a foundation course, which is the course that if you want to enter in the Diamond Way starting next year with Geshe Michael, that's why you're here. Right? Because you do have to do preparation. Like you have to have some background in preparation, otherwise it won't work. But as you study the Lam Rim, the steps on the path, you start seeing things that are you start understanding what he meant by the word with technique. And so then you start gathering more and more tools that are based around the 4 steps, which are based around a small teaching, but very important teaching, the Abhidharma Kosha. Right? Everything gets based around it. And so as you move deeper and deeper into the steps on the path, you start building more techniques. And then Diamond Way basically says, all right, are you ready to put like rocket fuel? Right? Are you ready to put the rocket fuel in and then light it? Right? And then if you're ready for it, you know, you just get the lighter out and I don't know where the lighter went, but I have some incense here, right? Right. And I just, you light that fuel and, you just get going, right? It takes you. And if you want that rocket fuel, you have to prepare. Okay. In order to get the techniques to work and then to make sense of them and to have control of them. Because as I said, rocket fuel. What happens if you don't have the rocket well developed and you put some fuel into it and then you ignite the fuel? Right? Elon Musk just had a rocket blow up on him, right? Okay. Right? It's an explosion, right? It's a pranic explosion, right? And then your good seeds ripen and your bad seeds ripen and the whole thing just, and you have to be prepared for it. Which is why we're doing these courses. Like the course from now until we have empowerment in a year or so are going to be about preparing ourselves. Sana's all set. Great. Excellent. Right. So what are those techniques? Like, what are those techniques to get that fuel in and make sure your rocket is well built, so it goes up and not down. You see. And that's what we're going to be teaching. And in the first class, starting in an hour, less than an hour, is going to be on the fundamental aspect of all diamond way practice. For $100, what is it? Three, two, one. Cancel the bet. Emptiness is pretty close, Irivor. It's called your teacher. Okay. It's called who is the person that's going to lead you through all of those techniques, right? Who's going to guide you and why you need that person. Not in this way where you're just devoted with like blind devotion, right? You're just doing it because the teacher said so, or because you like them, or you think they're cute, or you think they're smart. Those are all good things, I suppose, but you're also opening up your spiritual real estate to these people, right? So you want to choose someone who's going to, take care of you. And you got to take care of yourself too. That's the most important thing, is how do you take care of yourself in that relationship? But that's what we're going to learn about starting in less than an hour. But each of those steps build upon each other. So it's like each of the steps, if you look at the steps on the path, like you're building your rocket ship, step 1, step 2, step 3, right? You're building that whole thing up and you're kind of gluing it together, with the strongest glue you can, which is called your bodhicitta. And then you're kind of souping it up with a little bit of emptiness and a little bit of renunciation, right? And those three things together are constructing that rocket ship. So when you finally put in that fuel, it'll be solid enough to take you up so you can have what we're calling like a magical life, right? Transform everything into something incredibly you will start seeing signs of it when your practice goes. You'll start getting glimpses of the normal world just kind of shifting, and you're like, that's not normal. Like there's something cool, there's something interesting going on out there. Of course, it's not going on out there, right? It's your seeds that are changing. Your seeds change. The seeds that throw the world, your penjicules, okay? The world that gets thrown from your karma, right? The structure of that world begins to change. And then how do we create that? Like, what are the techniques? What is the 4 steps with technique? All right. And so I'm going to give a little bit of from the first course that we took. This was back in April. So just as a reminder of where we were and what we learned. And if you're brand new and you're learning this for the first time, you're in the right place. All right. So there's three. How many did I have? One, two, three. Yeah. Okay. So there's three specific. Let's call them attitudes. I like to call it more of an attitude, like a mindset. Like, can you shift your mindset? Like, because it's not this hugely mystical, like, oh, Diamond Way, we're going to put some incense out and then we're going to put a big tanka of like, some monster with 36 arms and like 18 legs. And, you know, well, hello, whiteboard. Why don't we shut that off? Okay. But that's the nature, that's the blank nature of things, right? You know, your mind has potential to be anything. And so um so that mind has the potential. If you shift your mindset, you can shift it into a, a perfectly transformed world where the suffering has just, you eradicate it very quickly. It's tremendous. It's tremendous. So what are those three main things that we learned? Mindset shifts. It's just a shift of how you look at the world and how you operate in it. You still do your 4 steps. You still do your renunciation. You still do everything you learned in the open teachings. You see, it's not like the open teachings just vanish. Oh, I'm a Diamond Way practitioner. No, don't be silly. All of those, that rocket ship still has to be a rocket ship, but you're just shifting your mindset just a little bit. And then, then all of a sudden the seeds become tremendously more powerful. Like it's literally like, it's like night and day. You know, you were, you were like a amateur, rose gardener in your house. And then all of a sudden, like everywhere you go are just the most beautiful, fragrant roses that you didn't even know you had planted. Like you didn't plant the roses down the street, but that's how it works. Like all of a sudden, all of these seeds just start going off, and you have like everything just quickly transforms, right? And it's a mindset shift, right? So there's three mindset shifts that we're gonna review in the next 15 minutes, right? Before we break, before Geshe starts. And I have a picture here. This is actually from today. All right. This is here in Mexico. And the little boy here, his name is Kyrie, came up to me and he just hugged me. And he wouldn't let go. Right. His mom's talking to me. His dad's in the background having a conversation with Rosa Van Grieken, who is our Diamond Cutter Press publisher. And then next to her is Oscar, who is one of our new translators, works in Gbox. Like all normal people, right? All normal people. But if you have a little mindset shift, this situation becomes entirely different. So here's the mindset shift. When you become a perfected being, there's three main bodies. You have your Dharma body, your Dharmakaya, which is your emptiness body mainly. You have the Sambhogakaya, which is the paradise body. But no one really can see those things. And because of your compassion, you then also have this capacity to take a form that can help somebody. We call it the Nirmanakaya, right? If a paradise body showed up, you wouldn't know what to do with it. But a Nirmanakaya, like the Buddhas are committed to serving others, to helping other people, right? And so they take forms that can help you. So did you think the Buddha was going to show up at your door as a white, bright light and be like, oh, you are now enlightened. I will teach you everything? Or do you think that maybe the Buddha showed up as this little boy who was like, Tim needs a hug? He didn't let go for 15 minutes. And it's like, I didn't want to let go. He just hugged me for 15 minutes. Is he a little boy? Or is he a Buddha? Right? What about the people I'm talking to? What are the people in the picture? What about the person who took the picture? Right? Did the person who take the picture know that this would be the perfect picture for tonight's talk? Right? And so the mindset shift is one from, is what I'm experiencing normal? Or is it possible that what's happening is not normal, that it's extraordinary? Maybe one of these people here, maybe the photographer, is an enlightened being appearing in a way that I can understand and helping me. Maybe the little boy is, maybe his parents are. Which one are they really? Which one are they really? Is the little boy a Buddha? Or is he just a little boy who needed a hug? Right? Your mindset shift is that. Who are the people around you? Who are they really? There is no really. Right? The mindset is they could be a Buddha. Maybe they're teaching me something. And this is perfect for your number one arch nemesis, translator and interpreters. Arch nemesis is the superhero's grand enemy. All right. Your arch nemesis could be a Buddha who's trying to show you that you still have some seeds, some bad ones, and you hate them. Right? You don't like them, but they're trying to teach you something. Which one are they? Are they the most irritating person in the world, or are they Buddha pretending to be the most irritating person in the world? Which one is it? There's your first mindset shift. That will shift the kind of seeds that you plant when you're doing that. I'm looking for a partner. Okay, great. You're looking for a partner. What are you doing about it? Oh, well, I'm going to the nursing home. Okay, great. You're going to the nursing home, right? Helping people who are lonely. Wonderful. You walk in and you're helping someone in the nursing home who's lonely. Was that person a Buddha or is not a Buddha? Right? Now the seeds you're planting are entirely different. And you have to think about why. And I'm not going to tell you why. You can just think about it. Mindset shift number 2. So when you're listening to any teaching, right, especially when you're listening to Buddhist teachings, and it doesn't have to be Buddhist, you have to get that in your mind. It doesn't have to be Buddhist. These mindset shifts are not Buddhists. And you have to think about that. Although we are studying Buddhism. If the Buddha was an omniscient being, right, Here he is sitting under the Bodhi tree, just got enlightened, right? And is thinking about what to do. What can the Buddha do? The Buddha is omniscient. What does omniscient mean? Omniscient means they're able to see past, present, and future directly at the same time. So for them, the present moment is not a present moment. They're aware of everything that came before, everything that will come after, including right now. Gautama Buddha was sitting there directly perceiving what's happening right now. So if that's all true, then what the Buddha taught 2,500 years ago, which is being taught right in this moment, the Buddha knew that it would be being taught in this exact moment, and taught in a way to know that we 546 people would be discussing these topics right now. Mindset shift. That this wasn't just, it just wasn't random. It wasn't just something that, oh, the Buddha just was sitting there and taught the first 5 disciples, didn't, taught them about the 4 Arya truths. It wasn't just teaching the 5 people, he was teaching us right now. And so like when you listen to the teaching tonight, bring this mindset shift in. Shift your mind. What I'm hearing was actually the Buddha saw this. Some enlightened being saw this and then taught it, and taught something 2,500 years ago and taught it to some other person. And knew specifically that Geshe Michael will be on stage tonight to teach us something. So bring your mind there. Again, another technique to empower your seeds with more rocket fuel. And then thirdly, which is kind of an extension of the last 2, is we call this a message in a bottle. I got on the airplane a couple of days ago, and the flight attendant looked at me and said, "I'm sorry, you have to go sit in another seat." And I'm like, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, there's a family and we wanted them to sit together, so we gave you a different seat." And I'm like, "What do you mean you gave my seat away? I chose that seat. That's my favorite seat." Right? I paid for that damn thing. Right? And I watched my reaction, and I was just like, and immediately I was thinking, oh, this is a message, Tim. This is a message. This is a message from a Buddha right now. Like, don't get angry at the family. You're doing something to help them. You're going to sit in another seat. It's not going to be a problem. And, I had to fight myself a little bit. I had to fight off the anger. It didn't last very long. But, and they put me in a seat that I don't like. It didn't have as much leg room. I like to stretch out. I'm a diva. I'm sorry. Okay. But I was like, okay, well, what's the message here? What's the message? Like, on a 2-hour flight, like, what are you thinking? Like, what's going on, Tim? Like, the family, and then the family was honestly really annoying. The kids were just, misbehaving. And I was like, okay, there has to be a message here. There has to be a message, right? Like, could I see this differently? Right. And I tried to focus on the differences. Like, how could I perceive this whole situation differently? Now I'm just sitting in my seat. Nobody has any idea that I'm thinking this. Right. And I realized, I looked back, and then the parents are super young. You got 3 kids. Like, they're trying to manage a complex situation. And here I am By the way, I was in business class. Who the cares what seat you have, right? It's still a nice seat, right? On a 2-hour flight, and they gave me a beautiful meal and they were really nice to me. And it was lovely flight, right? I like sitting in certain places. I like to sit on the left side of the plane, which is also a secret message, and I had to get moved to the right, all these things. But I had to fight myself. I had to fight my tendency to be irritated, but then flip it into a different view. That was a message. Tim, you get a little irritated a little bit too fast. Yes, I didn't sleep much the night before. I was tired. I didn't feel well. It was 6 a.m. Okay, fine. I give myself a little pat on the back. Right. But Diamond Way practice doesn't pat yourself on the back too much. You start looking for the secret messages, and that's patting yourself on the back. What can I learn from this? Right. And so the main point of all of those practices is to shift your mind. Like, you're shifting how you think about it, and nobody knows the difference. Nobody has to know. And that's why we say Diamond Way practice is secret. One of the reasons. No one has to know anything that you're doing. Your mind is operating differently. You're planting seeds differently. Right. And so what we're going to be doing over the next, starting in the next program, in a half an hour with Geshe Michael, is we're going to be going deeper into the preparation for Diamond Way. So then once you get through these courses, you'll be able to have that foundation. Your rocket ship will be securely built. So when you enter that fuel in, it'll just take off. And there's so much more to say about this. There's so much more to say. And this was just a brief introduction. And so these courses, there are, to be able to enter in, you have to attend all of them. There's different, if you miss a class, you can make it up. There's ways to do it. So don't worry, don't stress. But we would really, really love it if you could come to this, right? And so tonight's class, which starts in a half an hour, it's an open talk. Anyone can come, whether you join the program or not. And let me put up a QR code here for that. Where are you? Right. Here's tonight's class, which starts in a half an hour. And Geshe Michael is going to be continuing with where we just left off. So we hope that you can stick around, join us here. It's free. It's open. You can come. And then if you're interested in the full program, you can sign up for the whole program, which is all weekend long. So it's going to be tonight, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And the nice thing about this is that the cost for this program is $149 US. But if you don't have that, it's a by donation type of course. So if you don't have that money and you still want to attend, it's open. And it's by donation all the way down to $0. Okay. So our mission at the Five Houses is these teachings are priceless. These teachings, you can't put a price on them. We put a price on them mainly because it costs money to run an organization. And we try to make it as accessible as possible. And we have to pay the Zoom. I just got the Zoom bill today. You don't want to know how much we have to pay for it, right? That's why we charge money for these things. But if you can't afford it, it's open and available because you could change the world. The whole point is that it's not about how much money you have to have access to change the world. That's stupid. Anyone can, just with shifting your mind just a little bit. All right. So what's also additional to the teachings is we're also going to be exploring a text that Geshe just finished translating called The Angel Debates the Devil. So this also going to be part of it as well. So it's a really fun text. sort of a dessert kind of thing where you can learn to build the karma in your mind to have more angelic thoughts, more message in the bottle thoughts, more suspicious thoughts of who is around you, and less of the normal thoughts. So the angel debates the devil is actually a debate between normal and extraordinary. And so Geshe is going to be giving us some depth on that as well. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming. We hope you stick around for the next event, which is starting in 30 minutes. Again, I don't, is the possible that the link can be put in the chat? If you don't have that, I'll put it up again. So thank you once again, and hope this introduction was introductory enough. But again, if you never come back, those 3 shifts, that's all you need to change. Those 3 things. Okay. And then your seed planting practice will go through the roof, even if you don't have Diamond Way yet. All right. Cool. Thank you all very much for joining, and we'll see you in about a half hour.